Michigan takes on Northwestern coming off of a bye week, so they've had an extra week to prepare for this away game. Last time Michigan was on the bye preparing for a game, it was Wisconsin, a 24-10 win against Wisconsin. And now Michigan goes on the road to a Northwestern team that I think is better than a lot of people thought they would be. They have a winning record this year. They're also ninth in the Big Ten as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one because Michigan overall this year has kind of struggled a little bit, or at least have played pretty close games on the road. And obviously, this is a Northwestern team that has performed a little bit better than they have been expected to. Now, do I think that's really going to be the end all be all for Michigan in this game? No, I truly don't. I think this is a game that Michigan should obviously win. They're currently, I believe, like an 11 and a half, 10 and a half point favorite against Northwestern on the road. Northwestern obviously doesn't have a football field that is specified for the long term. It's going to be still their quote unquote temporary football field, which I don't think is truly going to play any factor into this. But this is a Northwestern team that is truly behind their head coach. This is a Northwestern team that averages like 21 points per game. It's a Northwestern team that is primarily wanting to run the ball. They average about 180 yards on the ground, only 170 yards through the air. So they got a pretty good mix, but when it comes to running the ball, it's going to truly be led by their main running back who has been really, really good this year, and that is Caleb Kunlafe. Sorry if I completely botched your name, Caleb. 726 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5.1 yards per average. Outside of him, you don't really have a whole ton of kind of like backup running backs number 2. You do have one guy that has had a few carries, about 81 carries on the year. So I think if there's one kind of quote-unquote true RB2 in this game, it would be Joseph Hyman the second. But again, it's truly going to be about Northwestern really wanting to run the ball in this game. It's also going to be about Northwestern doing a pretty good job of having time of possession. They've been averaging about 32 minutes, a little bit more than that time of possession per game, which obviously means that they like to have the ball a little bit more and kind of keep the ball away from the other team, which I think is going to be obviously a huge factor in this one. I also think ball security is going to be a huge factor in this one as well because you have a quarterback in Preston Stone that this year he has 11 touchdowns. He's not extremely accurate, only 59% completion. He's a senior, so he's obviously experienced, but his QBR is like a 46.9. He has 9 interceptions on this year. Northwestern's done a pretty decent job of protecting him, though. He only has 12 sacks on this year, and this is going up against a Michigan front four that continues to obviously be really, really good. Wide receiver-wise, though, you have to mention a couple of guys. I think the main wide receiver is going to be Griffin Wild. He's been pretty solid overall. He's been the guy that has the most receptions, most amount of yards, touchdowns, has 5 touchdowns as well, most amount of touchdowns. He's kind of his go-to guy. He has basically over twice the amount of receptions compared to anyone else on this team. The next closest was 19 and 19. One of those guys is Hyman, who's the running back out of the backfield. So that's a real possibility. That's going to be an interesting kind of matchup. It's going to be an interesting thing to see what Michigan does in this game. But Michigan also has really good linebackers as well. They've been really good in pass coverage. You have Cole Sullivan. Sounds like he's going to be back. Sounds like he's getting a little bit healthier. They have other linebackers as well that have had great years. This is a Michigan defense that has been pretty good, but this is also a Michigan team overall that has kind of struggled on the road. Even though they've won really close games, it truly hasn't been like an all-star type performance, especially from the offensive side of the field. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens from an offensive perspective in this one, because I don't think ever since Sharon Moore has come back, Michigan's offense has been the same that it was when Biff Poggi was the head coach. I don't think it's looked the same. Now, obviously, do I think the level of talent, do I think the level of teams that they have played is better than what they were under Biff? Yeah, I absolutely think so. But obviously, Bryce hasn't been necessarily the greatest. Justice Haynes probably won't be playing this game. We'll see if he even plays the rest of the season. Wide receiver wise, they still have a couple really good wide receivers. They have a couple really good running backs. They have a couple really good tight ends. Like, this is an offense that, even though that they have struggled, they can still put up points. And I think that's going to be another interesting key for this one, is if it's a really close game, or if Northwestern gets out to a lead pretty early on, what is this defense going to do for Michigan? Is Michigan's offense going to have enough? And I do think that Northwestern overall, if you really have to talk about just the team, I think offensively they'll be able to maybe get a little bit going. I think Michigan defensively will be able to stop the run for the most part. I do think that they have given up a little bit more against the run than maybe in the years past. But it's still a really good defense. It's an offense that is trying to get better offensively, running the ball. You see Michigan kind of have a big run or two throughout a game. I think that's obviously going to be a continued thing for teams going up against Michigan to kind of keep an eye on for, because if they can do that, if they can prevent Michigan from having that big run, that's going to be obviously really important as well. But there's a couple key players defensively for Northwestern that I do want to talk about. There's one linebacker who has 4 interceptions this year, and I'm going to be completely sorry that I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong, but you got Mac Uline. He has 4 interceptions on this year, 1 forced fumbled, 44 tackles. They actually have a defensive back that is the leading tackler on this team. It's Robert Fitzgerald. He has 49 tackles by himself, 1 pass breakup, so he's going to be a guy that's going to truly come downhill quite a bit. But this is a defense that, if you look overall, they have 6 interceptions on the year, and 4 of those are the same linebacker. So it's going to be interesting to see if Michigan's going to try to use a little bit of their tight ends on this linebacker that has been making plays. Michigan's offense likes using tight ends. It's had tight ends involved, and if you have typically a linebacker on a tight end, you typically think you're going to win that matchup. Well, 4 interceptions this year, that's definitely something to kind of keep an eye on for. But overall, just my thoughts is that I think it's going to be a closer game than maybe the spread projects it to be. I do think Michigan does win this game, though. I think this Northwestern team, while they are better, I think talent-wise, I just think there's several different factors going into this game of why I think Michigan does win. I think stopping the run is going to be a big one. I think talent itself is going to be a big one. I think coming off of a bye week is going to be a big one. I just see Michigan winning this game by like 7 points, 7 to 10 points at the end of the day. I think it's going to be pretty close to the spread, but I think if you're betting, which I'm not saying you should, I'm not advertising that you should, because if you're not the age, definitely don't do it. But I think it's going to probably be for Northwestern when it comes to spread. But yeah, I think it should be a good game. I think it should be a fun game. I'm going to be interested to see how Michigan comes out of the bye week on the road, but I do think Michigan at the end of the day does win. So if you enjoy this content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. I'll obviously recap this game a little bit later. Make sure to tune in that one, and make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment like I just said.